I'd like to echo some of the thoughts and the comments made by my colleagues, and probably the main issue up in my neck of the woods is economic development and job creation. In other words, in upstate New York and western New York and throughout much of the state, it's very hard to conduct business under the regulations and the rules that we have right now. I think that the passage of this bill will put up a sign that New York State is now closed for business. And I know that Senator Marcellino had used the word, I think you had said that this would put a crimp in economic development and business. I actually think it goes even a little bit further from that. I think this will be devastating for my community. I understand and there's actually a lot of opinions on both sides of the issue. But if you have to make a choice and you have to make a decision, one of the things that's happening in this state is that we are continuing to bleed people and businesses. And I think this will be one of the final nails in the coffin to trying to create jobs, to try to create economic development, to try to create prosperity in New York State and upstate New York. I just want to read from some of the memos that we have here about different people who are involved in economic development and who are involved in business and what their opinions are. They say that for the building and development industries, the construction projects will be completely shut down and local community taxpayers will be the ones that ultimately pay the price. They go on to say that providing individuals with standing in actions alleging violations of ECL will only solicit uncertainty on behalf of investors and developers, making New York State even less attractive for economic development. In other words, right now, New York State is very unattractive for doing business. That's why the growth areas are not in New York State. They're in Tennessee, they're in North Carolina, they're in Florida, they're in other areas where taxes are lower, where regulations are less burdensome, where people are moving to, not from. Another opinion that was expressed in some of the memos that we received, that this will discourage new investment and job creation in the state, as well as create competitive disadvantages. And finally, in a third memo, it talks about our primary opposition to this legislation is that it will encourage additional litigation without significantly enhancing environmental protection in New York. If this bill actually helped the residents of my community and the taxpayers of my community, I would be all for it. But it doesn't help. The only thing it does is it continues to chase them away. Where we see on Main Street in Buffalo, we see boarded up building after building after building where people are trying to rehab, people want to do economic development. They don't want to because it's too expensive, it's too burdensome, it's too costly, there are too many mandates. This will shut down the remaining buildings on Main Street in Buffalo and other areas, not only in upstate New York and western New York, but throughout the state. Because as some of my colleagues have said, people are not going to want to lend money. The uncertainty of being able to get development projects on board will just be totally out of hand, even much more difficult than it is now. So while the intentions may have been pure, I think the unintended consequences will be devastating for my community, and for that reason I will not be supporting the legislation when it comes for a vote. Thank you, Mr. President.